Welcome to our Friday Independent Living Skills Discussion. My name is Catherine. I am a project coordinator at LVCIL. My preferred pronouns are she, her. I'd like to welcome George. Actually, welcome him back. He is from the PA Department of Banking and Securities, and this is our fourth installment in the Dobbs series. Today, we're talking spending plans. But before we jump into that topic, a couple logistics for today. We are recording today's session, and we will post the recording and links to the LVCIL YouTube channel. We do invite attendees to turn their cameras on if they feel comfortable. Captions are available through Zoom. You just click on the CC live transcript and show subtitles to turn them on. Our presentation is a participatory event, so we want to hear from you. So join in on the conversation with questions, comments, reactions. You can do that through the chat box where you can post questions, reactions, or we will pause for questions and you are invited to unmute and come on screen to ask your questions. And I have to back up a little bit. I forgot to give a visual description. I am a white female in my mid-30s. I have shoulder-length black hair that I'm wearing down today, and I am wearing a greenish teal sweater, and I have kind of a beige wall with a window behind me. So let me introduce our guest today, George. He is the consumer outreach specialist with the Investor Education and Consumer Outreach Office of the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. George has over 25 years of speaking and training experience. He is very passionate about saving and investing for the future and teaching people how to protect their assets. For the last 15 years, George has worked for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Prior to working for the PA Department of Banking and Securities, he worked for the Pennsylvania Department of Labor and Industry, leading a team at the Bureau of Workplace Partnership Operations and Employment Services. He's worked with both employers and consumers one-on-one, as well as speaking at several local and regional events. George's educational background includes a master's degree in business administration from Rosemont College in Rosemont, PA. He also holds a bachelor's degree in education from Kutztown University of Pennsylvania in Kutztown, PA. Again, welcome to George, and thank you so much for being here.
Great, thank you,
The floor is
Catherine.
yours.
Fantastic, yeah. Welcome to my presentation on spending plans, a road to financial success. So, according to Investopedia, a personal spending plan, aka budget, helps you determine your cash flow. It can help you understand how you earn and spend your money. When paired with a financial goals worksheet, the personal spending plan can be used to create a roadmap for monitoring your spending and helping you achieve your financial goals. Basically, in a nutshell, what we're looking at doing is we're looking at monitoring what's coming in versus what's going out. And the whole idea is to make sure that we have more coming in to the coffers, as I like to call it, rather than going out the door in the form of expenses. A lot of us out there live to our means, right? A lot of people out there that are living to their means. Every dollar that's coming in, there's a dollar going out, with nothing left over to set aside for these financial goals that we're going to be talking about. Some that could be very important for us to set up as far as related to saving and investing. But we don't have anything left over. Every dollar that's coming in, then there's a dollar going out. Unfortunately, there are some people out there, maybe more than some people out there, that are living above their means. For every dollar that's coming in the door, there could be $1.25 or $1.50 going out. They go further and further and deeper into debt, and at some point, the house of cards, so to speak, falters. So and for people in those situations, they really need to turn things around. There are people out there that live below their means. And when we say living below our means, we don't want to make a negative thing out of it. Oh, gee. Okay. George is going to talk about me eating hot dogs and baked beans 5 or 6 times a week, and and so on and so forth. Not doing anything. No, no, we don't want to make a negative thing out of it. Things that we can do in our lives to either cut back or swap out to free up those additional funds and make sure that we do have more money coming in than going on. There are a lot of people out there who have real money, who millionaires out there that live below their means, making sure they have more coming in the door than what's going out the door. As the old saying goes, how do you think they got so much money? By making sure, making sure they do have more coming in than what's going out. People, again, who have millions of dollars, you wouldn't even know are millionaires. They live in whatever it is, whatever a normal house is, a normal house. They drive a normal car. They wear normal clothes. They're not out to impress anybody. You wouldn't even know they had millions of dollars because they don't live that millionaire lifestyle. Gentleman that I like to point out all the time is a gentleman by the name of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, who only has about $100 billion in his bank account, probably more now, but only has about $100 billion in his bank account. This is a gentleman who still lives in the same house that he bought back in the 1950s, long before he had $100 billion in his bank account. Now, bigger than any house I'm ever going to own. But for somebody with that type of money, he could certainly live in something bigger, something grander. But he says, why do I need it? He says, I'm happy with the house that I have. This is why I bought this house. I'm happy with where I live. Gentleman who famously, as I found out a year or so ago, never buys a new car. He always buys a car that's a couple of years old. He realizes, the money that is lost over the first couple of years, how much the value of a car lowers in those first couple of years. I think we've all heard the old saying about buying a brand new car. That once you drive it off the showroom lot, it loses a couple $1,000s in value because it's now classified as a used car. He realizes this, and he never buys new. He gets a great value for buying a car that's a couple years old. $100 billion in his bank account. A gentleman who loves, one of his favorite restaurants he loves to go to is McDonald's. And from what I'm told, he uses coupons when he goes there. He gets them in the mail like everyone else. Why not take advantage of it? So, we don't have to make a negative thing out of this. Things that we can do, even no matter what we're making, things that we can do, even if it's freeing up, even if it's making sure we have $30 to $50 more coming in every month than what's going out, we have something that we can use to set aside for those financial goals that we're going to be talking about shortly. So this is what we're going to be covering today: goal setting, cash flow and tracking expenses, creating the plan, and monitoring and adjusting those plans as we go along for those new goals. So we're looking at financial goals. We're looking at what we'll term as SMART goals. What is a SMART goal? That's a goal that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and has a time frame to it. And it doesn't have to be anything long and drawn out. It doesn't have to be the next Gettysburg Address. Something as simple as I will save $300 in the next 6 months for a new smartphone. Maybe every 3 to 5 years, I go out and upgrade my smartphone. Maybe I'm not looking for the top of the line, the brand new, the newest, latest top of the line. Maybe I'm just looking to upgrade what I have, and I'm looking to spend $300 for that upgrade, rather than throwing something else on those plastic cards with those high interest rates that a lot of us are paying month in and month out, because we seem to keep a balance on those cards. Maybe I'm looking at setting those funds aside over the next 6 months to buy that new smartphone. Maybe I'm looking at $50 a month over the next 6 months to pay for that. Where do I come up with that additional $50? Where can I create those additional funds to do that, as well as other SMART goals that I'm looking to achieve? I do have an example. I have 3 examples, the worksheets that we're going to be talking about today. I've sent samples of those worksheets to Catherine. If you'd like to have copies of them, reach out to her. She can send you all of them. I have one example of a financial goals worksheet, two examples of each of the other two forms that we're going to be talking about. So 5 altogether. Certainly you can use your own. We'll talk more about that, but those are available, including a financial goals worksheet where you write down your financial goals that you're looking to achieve. So in this scenario, let's take a look at the SMART goal that we have here. Is that specific? $300, I think, is specific. By the way, experts say that if we set specific and what they term as exciting goals, much more achievable than non-specific goals. Rather than saying I'm going to save a lot of money for a new smartphone, what's a lot of money? That's going to be different from one person to the next. I'm looking at upgrading mine at about $300. Somebody else may be looking at the latest, greatest, newest, top of the line phone for $1,300 or somewhere in between. But if I set a specific number, and as they term exciting number, much more achievable. So specific $300, measurable, I think we can measure that. Attainable and realistic, that's going to be up to us, isn't it? And with any of the SMART goals that we set, obviously we could set a goal that's just too, pie in the sky that would us or maybe a number of other people are never going to achieve it. I could say I want to save $1 million in my bank account over the next year, but if I'm making $10.50 an hour at my job and I don't have anything else coming in, might be a little complicated. But so we're looking at setting, realistic. So if we set realistic, attainable, realistic goals, again, much more achievable as well. So in this scenario, that's going to be up to me. Where do I come up with the additional $50 over the course of the next 6 months to set aside for that smartphone? And again, time frame, which is the 6 months. So when we're looking at SMART goals, we're basically looking at 3 types: short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals. Short-term goal might be that new smartphone that we talked about. They're looking to upgrade. Maybe it's a vacation. Maybe once a year, I like to take that vacation down to the shore, whether it's me or the family. I like to get it to go for 1 week down to the shore. Maybe it's going to cost me, it costs me on average $1,000 a year. And traditionally, I've just slapped it on the credit card and taken the next how many months to pay that off, again, with those high interest rates. Now, maybe what I'm looking at doing is setting those funds aside over the course of the next 12 months so that I have that, at least most of that money by the time it comes time for that vacation. So again, I'm not going more into debt to take that trip. Maybe I set up a vacation club at my local bank or credit union, and then of course from there, how am I going to come up with the say maybe I'm looking at $100 a month over the course of the next 12 months to pay for that vacation I'd like to take. Where am I going to free up those additional funds? Mid-range goals, maybe a new car, maybe every 3 to 5 years I get a new vehicle, or a newer, like Warren Buffett, a newer vehicle. And again, over the next 3 to 5 years, I want to put those funds aside. So again, I have at least most of what I'm looking to pay for that vehicle. Maybe a home, looking to upgrade the home, or a new couple just starting out, they're looking to buy their first home. We need 20%. Maybe we'd like to have 25% down on that home. In this price range, maybe we're going to take the next 3 to 5 years to set those funds aside, so we have that nice down payment for that home that we want to purchase. Long-term goals, maybe education. I like to key in on retirement. I throw this statistic out all the time that 45 to 50% of Americans retire with nothing else to fall back on but a Social Security check. We don't want to be, part of that 45 to 50%. We want to be part of the other 50% where we have something to fall back on, something above and beyond Social Security. How do we create those funds? Can I, even if I'm just setting aside maybe $20 or $30 a paycheck, Maybe I work for a company that has a 401k, a nice 401k, aka retirement plan. I can have that money automatically taken out of my check before I even get that check, and maybe even if it's just $20 or $30 a paycheck over the next how many years, which adds up with compound interest we'll be talking about later on, that really gives us something significant at the end of our career to fall back on besides Social Security. So short-term, mid-range, and long-term goals that we're looking at. So in order to meet our goals, we must understand our financial situation. As I mentioned earlier, cash flow, what's coming in versus what's going out. And the whole idea is to make sure we have more money coming in the door than what's going out the door. So when we're looking at cash flow, again, what's coming in versus what's going out, what's coming in the form of income, everything total that's coming into the household. If I live with somebody, I have a spouse, we're both working, both paychecks, I have something on the side that I'm doing to make some extra money, and everything total that's coming into the household. Versus cash flow going out in the form of expenses, everything that's going out the door, so to speak. And when we look at cash flow going out, expenses, we're looking at two types of expenses: fixed expenses and flexible or variable expenses. Fixed expenses may be, the mortgage, the rent that we pay, car payments, car insurance, childcare. Flexible or variable expenses may be the utilities, the groceries that we buy, entertainment, what we're throwing on those credit cards. And when we're looking at flexible or variable expenses, we're even looking at two types. Expenses that are going to vary naturally or vary because we make them vary. Here's the example I use. Say I live in a home. In fact, I do live in a home where everything is, all my utilities are the electric, the heat, the air, the lights, everything runs on electric. So I get an electric bill once a month. We have an unseasonably warm winter like we're kind of having this year. And my electric bill isn't as high because I'm not using the heat as much. There's a natural variation, as opposed to me making it vary. Maybe I decide, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll save some bucks, or a spouse, a spouse goes to the other spouse and says, hey, honey, I realized that if we lowered the thermostat 5 degrees in the wintertime, we raised it 5 degrees in the summertime, we'd probably save ourselves somewhere around $50 a month on our electric bill by doing that. So in that case, we're making it vary. And as well as a lot of other expenses that we have. Again, variable or flexible expenses versus the fixed expenses. The expenses we can't really do anything about. Or can we? Here's a question. Could fixed expenses also be variable? Here's the example I use. Say I rent my home. I rent an apartment. Now, as long as I'm not tied into some long-term lease for the next year or two, don't I have the option of looking around, seeing if there's something else out there? My rent start is really going up over the last couple of years, like a lot of people. This whole bubble with the rent, the rent's going up. From what I hear, that bubble is starting to burst, so to speak. And those rentals, for whatever reason, they're forced into coming back down. Is this an opportunity for me to look around and shop around and maybe find something comparable, the same type of apartment, same amount of space, comparable neighborhood, and maybe save myself $300 a month by making the move? In that case, and say I do that, I make the move, I've just made a fixed expense a variable expense. I've just now freed up $300 a month that could be used elsewhere. I could put towards those financial goals that I'm looking to achieve. Maybe in that situation, maybe I go to the company I'm currently renting from, letting them know that I am shopping around. Is there anything that you can do with my rent? Maybe they decide I'm a good, I'm a good tenant. I'm always paying up to. They don't want to lose me as a tenant. Hey, let's negotiate. And even if I don't negotiate, maybe I negotiated them lowering my rent $200, and then that way I don't have to can save me the hassle of having to move. I've still freed up $200 a month. Same insurance. I'll use insurance as another example of that. I shop around for new car insurance every 3 to 5 years. Why? Because we see those insurance prices just, especially like car insurance just goes up every year. And every 3 to 5 years, I shop around and I'll save myself at least a couple $100 a year by doing that, switching to a comparable company with the same coverage. The last time I did that a couple of years ago, I saved myself $400 a year. I recommended that to a family member shopping around. She did that and she cut her car insurance in half. The company she was with upped her insurance rate again. In fact, upped it over $1,000 a year. She shopped around, got another company, comparable coverage, and basically cut her bill in half. She pays a little over $500 a year now. So in her case, she saved herself about $500 a year by doing that. So my whole point with that is when it comes to fixed expenses, maybe at least in some cases, they can also be variable, and we can look at them. Cutting back, or I like to talk about swapping out, getting the same bang for less buck. And the apartment is a good example of that. If I find a comparable apartment, the same amount of space, same type of development that I'm in, convenient to basically the same thing, and I can save myself a couple $100 a year. I've now just swapped out rather than cut back on something to free up those additional funds. All right, so what we're looking at doing, again, we're looking at cash flow coming in versus cash flow going out. Cash flow going out, in fact, may be a little trickier. What we want to do is we want to track everything that's basically going out the door for at least 30 days. Some experts say that maybe we should do it longer, 60 months. 60 months. How about 60 days? 60 days or 90 days, rather than 1 month, we do it for 2 or 3 months. That way, it might give us a better average of what's going out the door, a better overall average by doing that. But at least for 30 days, we track everything that's going out the door. At least 2 reasons why we do this. First of all, I think a lot of us out there might think we do have more coming in the door than what's going out the door. And I think we'd surprise ourselves. In a lot of cases, we find that every dollar that's coming, basically every dollar that's coming in, that dollar is going out. Some people may be surprised that they have more going out the door on a monthly basis. And especially if we track it for 60 or 90 days, oh my God, even if it's just $30 to $50 a month. But if I track for 90 days and realize that I have $30 to $50 more going out the door than what's coming in, even though it's going to take some time, I'm just going deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. So in that case, I really do need to change some things around. But again, we might surprise ourselves as to what's going out versus what's coming in. And in both those situations, I guess we probably need to do something to turn that around. So one reason for tracking our spending. The other reason we want to track our spending. Oh, and again, these are the handouts that I sent Catherine. I have 2 examples of spending trackers or expense trackers. They're either called expense trackers or spending trackers I sent to Catherine that can be used. But the other reason we do this is to see what we're spending our money on a monthly basis and how much. And again, I think a lot of us would surprise ourselves. Those coffees that a lot of us like to have on a daily basis. Say I'm married, me and my spouse both like to go out, we go to work, we both like to stop at our fancy coffee shop or whatever coffee shop to get our nice big coffee to take with us into work. And say we're spending on average $4 a day each on those coffees, and that may be cheap in this day and age, but say it's $4 a day, and maybe we're even going out on weekends. On weekends, we're going out together and getting a coffee, and Saturdays and Sundays before we do things. $4 a day times 2 times 30, that's $240 a month that they're spending on coffee. And if they track that, oh my God, honey, look at this. Look what we're spending just on those coffees that we have out every day, in a month's time, $240. So I think we'd be surprised as to what we're spending. Say they have kids, they have children, and they give them spending money here's a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. They add that up, they keep track of that, they add that up over the course of a month. And oh my God, look what we're giving the kids every month for spending money. I think we surprise ourselves as to what we're spending money on and how much. And as we're doing this, we might already be looking at ways that we could be cutting back. That electric bill I was talking about, maybe we're spending $200 a month on our electric bill. And gee, my spouse said if we lowered the thermostat, raised it, maybe did some other things like making sure we turned lights off we weren't using, and this and that, got more energy efficient appliances and bulbs, $50 or more, we could save. Right now we're spending $250 a month on the electric bill. So we've realized what we're spending money on, how much, and maybe most importantly are those spending leaks. Things that if we were to eliminate, we wouldn't even miss that we're spending money on every month. Two examples that I use all the time, I'm going to mention them here, is the magazine subscriptions that I had that I finally eliminated, and those cable channels and now the internet channels that I have. As I'm doing my spending tracker, of course, and I'm keeping track of these, it finally dawned on me, these magazine scripts, and I'm not even reading these magazines anymore. They're not even coming out of the plastic sleeve. I get the magazine, these things have a lot to do with it. I'm reading everything online now. They're not even coming out of the plastic sleeve. I get the magazine, I put it on the pile, and I'll get to that later. I never get to it. And I'm spending $50 to $60 a year on each subscription. I think I had 6 subscriptions. Guess what got eliminated? Guess what I don't miss? I think I might be saving maybe $20 a month, but that's an extra $20 a month now, if that's what it works out to, that I have coming in, and I don't even miss those subscriptions because I wasn't even reading them anymore. Same thing with the cable channels and those internet channels that I had. I realized there were channels I wasn't even watching, and or there were duplicates that I didn't need to have 2 of. And I eliminated some of those and probably saved myself $30, $40, $50 a month. So those spending leaks, the things if we were to eliminate, we wouldn't even miss, that will again free up additional funds that we could use elsewhere towards those SMART goals that we're looking to achieve. So another reason for tracking the spending. And as we're doing this, as we're tracking our spending, we're probably already thinking about ways that we can cut back and or swap out to free up those funds as we're doing it. So now we know where we're at and where we want to go to. We now need to keep track of that. Now we're looking at going to the spending plan itself, or the older term is budget, looking at creating that budget or that spending plan. Different ways that we can do it. Again, and two examples of the spending plan I sent to Catherine. You can certainly at least take a look at those and possibly use those. So the handouts that I had, you can go on the internet and find your own handouts. I found these, I thought they were good examples, but there's a whole bunch of them out there that you could certainly print out and use on the internet. There's software that you can get that you can use. You can create your own spreadsheets if you want to. Me, I live by myself. I don't have a lot coming and going, so it's very easy for me, at least I think so, to track what's coming and going, to keep track of everything. So I use an old-fashioned pen and pad, pad and a pen, and I write everything down. There's companies that you can hire that will create a spending plan for you and help you stick to that spending plan. The ironic thing there is that they're not going to do it for free. You need to pay them. And if they're monitoring it for free on a monthly basis, you're paying them. So that's something else you're going to have to factor into your spending plan. But different ways that we can do it. The whole idea is, the old Nike ad says, no matter how we do it, just do it. Just do it and create that plan and free up those funds to put towards those SMART goals we're looking to create. So we're creating the plan. No matter whether we create our own, we use one of my my examples or one that we find ourselves, and we're going to list all monthly expenses. We're going to use the information from our spending tracker, and now we're going to plan. We're going to spend all that money, and basically how much. Basically how much. Recommended, don't have to do it. It's recommended that you either use a form, get a form, create a form that has a budgeted column and an actual column. Beginning of the month, we put down what we're looking to spend on each one of those expense items. My wife and I come up with a plan with the electric, with lowering the heat 5 degrees in the winter, raising it 5 degrees in the summer, maybe get new, those new LED bulbs that are more efficient, cost less, and we're going to do other energy saving things. And we figured we're going to take our monthly bill from $200 to $150 a month. So we're going to budget $150 a month. We've just freed up $50 that we could use elsewhere. Those coffees out that we like to have, we decide that we're going to, we realize we started doing this a couple days a week to treat ourselves. We decide we're going to go back to doing that. We're going to treat ourselves out a couple days a week, and the rest of the time we're going to make use of that coffee maker that we bought a couple of years ago and start using that and making our own coffees at home. By the way, this is a good example of how people with money will spend money to actually save money. And again, the example I use is because I'm a big coffee drinker. I'm trying to drink a little bit more tea now, but I'm a big coffee drinker myself. And I read this in an article one place where they might go out and they like to have they like to go out and have that coffee, that cappuccino, that latte here and there or whatever. Maybe they go out and they spend $300 or $400 on a really nice maybe not commercial grade, but just as good as the commercial grade coffee makers that will do all that for them. They spent $300 or $400, but if they start making more of those at home, rather than buying them out every day, over the long term, what are they saving? I did that. I didn't pay $300 or $400. But I went out and got myself a new coffee maker, a Keurig coffee maker. I actually have the option of doing a pot of coffee or the individual cups. And I go to the wholesale club, and at a fraction of the cost of what I pay in a grocery store, I get my nice Starbucks French roast that I like, and I make a coffee that I can take out. That I take out with me most when I go out on the road. That, as far as I'm concerned, is just as nice as what I pay at some kiosk someplace at 3-4 times the price. So something that we can consider. And so going back to that scenario, gee, honey, we're spending $240 a month. How about if we start going in maybe a couple times a week, and maybe we start making more of our own coffees at home. Maybe we even invest in that new machine, and we can make cappuccinos, lattes, and so on and so forth. So they do that, and now they decide, hey, let's cut it in half. Let's cut the budget in half. We're going to budget $120 a month for those coffees out, or maybe the coffee's total cost with making it at home. And now we've just freed up $120. And we're doing this with other things as we go. Where can we cut back? Or again, I like swapping out. Coffee is a good example of that. Again, coffee I make at home, as far as I'm concerned, is just as good as what I buy out there at a fraction of the cost. So more bang for less buck. And we're plugging those in, freeing up those funds as we go along. And again, for some of us with limited funds, even if I free up $50 a month, at least I have $50 more coming in than what's going out that I could use elsewhere. We'll talk more about these things, other things that we could set money aside for as we go along. All right, so if we use the plan that has a budgeted column and an actual column, at the end of the month, we write down what we actually spent. We see how we did, and that's why it's recommended to do that, at least to start. Gee, did we go over? We're giving the kids, pocket money every month. We realized we were giving them each about $60 each a month. We didn't feel we didn't need to do that. We decided to cut that down to $40 each to free up some funds. So we budgeted $80 a month rather than the 120 total that we were giving them. But at the end of the month, we ended up giving them that much anyway, because we gave them the 40 and then some. So what can we do to pull that back to make sure we stay within budget? Maybe the coffee's out. Maybe we found we're saving even more. Maybe we're only spending $60 a month total going out for some coffees, making them at home. Maybe we decide to rebudget from that 120. Maybe we still pad it a little bit. Maybe we rebudget to 80 rather than 60. We rebudget to 80, but in that case, we're rebudgeting, we're lowering it. We've just freed up some more funds. The electric bill, did we come in at what we thought we'd come in at? Did we go over, under what, and we're doing that with everything at the end of the month with what we actually spent. All right, sometimes income and expenses don't balance. What can we do? Up until now, we talked mainly about, what can we cut back? Or again, I like swapping out. What can we swap out to get the same bang for less buck? Or what could we cut back on? But on the flip side, could we bring more in? Husband and wife, again, they both have a full-time job. Maybe one of them decides, hey, you know what? I don't have any hobbies, and I get bored on the weekends. I'm going to go out and get myself a part-time job. And honey, by doing that, I think we're going to bring in enough on that part-time job. We'll take that check and that's what we'll use towards at least some or most of those financial goals we're looking to achieve. So could we bring more money in, with a full or part-time job, a side business, that type of thing? Taxes, maybe a husband and wife, they do their income tax return every year. Maybe they get $1,000 back every year on their income taxes. Rather than taking that money and blowing it, maybe they decide, hey, let's put that, hey, honey, those end of year holiday expenses we have, Thanksgiving, New Year's, and whatever we celebrate in between. We pay about $1,000 every year for, those end of year holidays. How about every year we get that tax return check back, and we put it we open up and put it into a holiday fund. So at the end of the year, we have that money cost, rather than putting that on the plastic card and taking the next how many months to pay it off with those high interest rates. So is there ways that we can, bring more money in? And of course, are there things that we can cut back on? Or again, I like to talk about swapping out, housing costs. Maybe we have the house, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. The kids are no longer living with us. Kids are grown. In fact, they're grown out of the house and they have their own families. So maybe we don't need that 4-bedroom house anymore. Maybe we can downsize and to a smaller cottage or a condo and cut back some costs that way. Swapping services. We've talked about swapping services. Transportation. Maybe we both have our own vehicle. Maybe we decide we don't need 2 vehicles. Maybe we could make do with one. I watched a YouTube video as a side note on transportation. Gentleman on the video talked about the total cost of owning a car, owning and maintaining a car. And we went over everything, the maintenance, the gas, and the total cost. He said, on average, all of us are probably spending about $500 to $600 a month on our vehicles. So 2 people, they have 2 cars. Could they make do with one? Could one use public transportation and they have one vehicle that the other could go to work and they can use for other things? And can we save $500 to $600 a month by eliminating, one of those vehicles? Maybe not, but could that be an option? Plugging those spending leaks that I was talking about. There's certainly other things out there that we could be spending money on. Maybe the electric bill could be one of them. We don't have those updated bulbs, the LED light bulbs. Maybe we decide to swap them out and make everything LED and save some costs that way. Or something that's running all the time that we don't need running all the time, that uses that electric, the electricity. Entertainment. Husband and wife, maybe they like to go every week. They like to go out and do something Saturday, maybe on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. They like to go out and you go to a show, maybe go to dinner and a movie or some type of a show. Hey, honey, how about if we maybe we could make do with going out every other week someplace. And maybe the weeks in between, we can just stay at home, cook a meal at home, spend some time together, cooking the meal together, have some fun. If they have kids, to get the kids involved. And those in between weeks, maybe we could do something that's low or no cost. Maybe we could all go for a bike ride someplace and then come home and have dinner. We make dinner, make a fun meal, and then we sit down and watch a movie on one of the movie channels that we have. Make our own homemade popcorn. Things that we cut back, or again swap out on to free up money. Food. Sometimes our cheaper foods are our healthier options. And the thing that I use as an example is frozen fruits and vegetables versus fresh. Generally, as I read all the time, generally frozen fruits and vegetables are cheaper, maybe much cheaper than fresh fruits and vegetables. The added bonus to buying them versus fresh, or at least more of them, because it's I don't know about anybody else, but it's difficult for me to make a salad with frozen vegetables. So I think I need some fresh, but the added benefit to eating more frozen fruits and vegetables than fresh is, from what I hear, the minute they pick that stuff, it gets flash frozen. And then what happens is all those vitamins and nutrients get locked in. And as long as that food stays frozen till we get it home and we decide to eat it, we cook it, we get the full benefit of those vitamins and nutrients. Fresh fruits and vegetables, what I keep reading is the longer they sit around, slowly over time, the more vitamins and nutrients they lose. And sometimes if they sit around long enough, we may be getting little to no benefit out of them. On top of that, the wastage, how much of that some of us might be throwing away because we let it sit around too long and we end up having to toss it. So could we save some money that way? Again, swapping out rather than cutting back. So we take a look, we take an inventory, so to speak. So we need the basics, right? We need to eat. We need food, shelter, clothing, transportation. Once go beyond the basics and increase our quality of life, but that's where some or a lot of us can get into trouble. I'm going to use the old, I think at least some of us still know the old keeping up with the Joneses quote, trying to keep up with the Joneses. The Joneses down the street got brand new, top of the line, all the bells and whistles, matching, not one, matching SUVs sitting in their driveway. Now we feel we have to do the same thing. They decide to move into a bigger and grander home. Now we have to follow suit. Maybe we're in the same social circles, and they're going out to fancy restaurants and taking fancy vacations, and we're doing the same thing because we're part of the same social group, and for all we know, the Joneses may be, and in some cases probably are, but maybe one paycheck away from total financial ruin because they're so far in debt and because they have to have this, they have to have that, and we're trying to keep up with them with their lifestyle. We could be going down the same path. The people that we want to look to, I think, and look up to, are those people, again, that live below their means. And again, I'm even talking about people who have real money, millionaires out there who don't live like they're millionaires. You wouldn't even know they were millionaires. And of course, Warren Buffett with the billions that he has in his bank and how he lives. We don't need that lifestyle. There's a quote, and I don't know the whole quote, about having to buy things to impress people that we don't even like with money we don't even have. That type of things. We don't need to do that. Something else that we need to consider when I read things on saving and investing, saving for and investing for the future, there's actually, rather than just putting money away for our future goals, there's two other things that factor into that, and that is the savings aspect and having a nice, healthy short-term / emergency fund. On top of that, paying down debt. A lot of people don't even think of. They're running up the cards. They're financing this, taking out loans for that. They're putting money away into their long-term investments. But if they actually sat down and looked at the numbers, gee, we're making a good health, anywhere from like 5 to 10% is a good investment. If I'm making somewhere between 5 and 10% return on my long-term investments for my future, that's pretty good. But heck, if I have all this debt, a good chunk of it is on those credit cards at what, 18, 20%, 25, 28% interest every month, loans and other things. I could be paying probably a lot more in compound interest than what I'm making in compound interest. I'll throw a quote out here that I use in another presentation from Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, right, one of the great minds of all time. He says, he said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And we know what he means by that. Again, would we rather make compound interest or pay it? And unfortunately, even if we are making it, a lot of us out there are paying more in compound interest because of the debt that we have. So that's one thing that we need. If we don't have our debt under control, that's one thing we need to free up those funds for, to pay that down, and at least in some cases pay off. On top of that, having a nice short-term / emergency fund to fall back on to cover those short-term needs that are going to pop up, or those emergency needs, they're going to pop up, not if they come up, when they come up, to pay for, rather than maybe having to dip into our retirement funds to pay for those things, to leave those sit for our long-term needs. So we need to, if we don't have our debt under control, maybe that's one thing. If we're looking to start out, for those of us looking to start out with a spending plan, maybe taking baby steps. What are 2 things that I could do over the course of the next year or so to where I could free up those funds and put money towards? Could I pay down that debt, pay off that debt that I have? Do that over the next year or so. Can I take another portion of that and put it into my savings accounts? And when I say savings accounts, I'm talking about savings, checking, money market accounts, money that's readily available that if I need it in a pinch, I can reach into and use. And again, we look at the things that can and do come up, like a job loss. Husband and wife both have a job. One of them all of a sudden loses their job, and they don't have that income coming in. Maybe it takes them a good 6 or 8 months to get that next job. And if they have that emergency fund to fall back on, they have that as a cushion to use until they get that next job. They can get back on their feet. By the way, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. Experts say we should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a short-term / emergency fund. Some experts say as many as 12 months. My personal thought is never hurts to have more rather than less, but at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And if we don't have that, again, that's if we're looking at starting out, maybe 2 things that we could at least look at and concentrate on initially, and then we can add to that as time goes on, and as we can free up additional funds for other things, we can come up with other financial goals. As you progress and make your spending plan a habit, we have to think about those SMART goals we're looking to create. And again, maybe for those starting out, maybe we start out with a couple, just 1 or 2, and then we add to them as we go along. Reevaluating our priorities. Again, do we need to take that trip of a lifetime at least now, or have this and have that? Can we make do with what we already have? Open an investment or a retirement account. This is the third piece to what I was talking about. And I mentioned that earlier. 45 to 50% of Americans who retire with nothing to fall back on but a Social Security check. And even if it's, $20 or $30 a paycheck that we put into some long-term account, we're putting something away for that long-term retirement goal. Save on housing expenses. We've already kind of covered this previously. We've already talked about like utilities, things that we can do with our housing situation to cut back. Do we need the big family homestead anymore? Can we downsize to something smaller? free up some funds that way. You know, the utilities, can we lower the thermostat 5 degrees in the winter, raise it 5 degrees in summer? What other things like energy efficient appliances, more energy efficient appliances than what we already have, and other things in the household. We've talked, you know, within insurance, maybe we didn't talk about like home insurance, but you know, home insurance might be the same thing, or other types of insurance besides car insurance. Do I bundle my insurance? Can I look around for a better bundled rate on my total insurance package? We've already talked about like subscriptions. You know, am I still using it? Do I still need them? Do I still use them? Do I have more cable and internet channels than I'm ever going to watch in any given month? One video that I watched, by the way, on what I'll call free YouTube, rather than their subscription plan, talked about one thing that we can do for looking to cut back. You know, maybe we have some favorite programs on one internet channel, some favorite programs on another internet channel. He said, maybe what we could do, he said, since most, if not all these channels, we don't have to tie into some long-term contract. He says, if we have a couple favorite programs on one of the internet channels, maybe we subscribe to that channel, we binge watch. Say if there's 2 programs on that channel that I like, I subscribe to it, I binge watch the latest season of those 2 programs, and once I'm done, I get rid of the channel again. And then then 6 months, a year later, when the next season comes around, I do it again. That way I'm only paying for it as long as I have it. But can we take stock of those subscriptions? Shopping with a list. We didn't talk about this, but shopping with a list. We hear this, I think I come across this on a regular basis, and you know, and maybe one way that we could cut back is before we go out shopping, we make a list of what we need, those things that we need, and then we stick to that list when we go out. You know, those impulse items, a lot of us will pick up. Maybe we write down what we need, we check sale. Hey, when is this on sale? And or if there's something that I use on a regular basis and it is on sale, some of these lost leaders that where they give deep discounts on these items to get us in, like at the grocery store. My favorite laundry detergent, maybe I can save 50% off of the laundry detergent, and I can get 2, 3, 4 of them. You know, I go in and I get the whatever I'm allowed to buy and stock up a little bit. I know I'm going to use it. And if I can save that much, you know, so that type of thing, sticking to the lists again that we have. I hear this about coupons all the time, and we all see, I think they still have, I don't know if they still have those programs, these super coupon people that go out and they get $500, what seems like $500 in groceries, and they only pay $5, you know, because of how they did. I could never get my mind around doing that. I would end up spending more money than what I would save. I don't even bother with that. But can we do things, you know, sometimes those coupons can have us spending more money than what we want to spend. People that will go out and use a coupon because they have the coupon, you know, if they didn't have the coupon, would they normally buy that item? Oh, gee, I can save $1 by using the coupon. But if I don't normally buy it, why spend whatever I'm going to spend anyway on that item? Or again, swapping out versus cutting back. Could I switch to store brands, at least in some cases, rather than the name brands? Sometimes, as I found out some years ago, sometimes, or maybe a lot of times, your store brands are made by the same manufacturers that are making those name brands, and you can get the same quality for you know, again, same bang for less buck. So those types of things to look at. All right, if you could save $30 a month by taking one or more of those savings tips and you invested it, now we're looking at investing. As I mentioned before, one thing, you know, if we get a job with a company who has a good, we want to make sure it's a good 401k or a good retirement plan. As I've heard, some companies out there will have a retirement plan just to say they have a retirement plan, and you find out that they're not even worth having. You know, maybe they don't do a match on the plan, and maybe there's so much cost involved with the the investment company that it gets set up with, it's not even worth having, having the plan. But you get a job with a good company that has a good, or at least a decent 401k or some type of retirement plan. Could that be a way of putting money in? And we're already automatically budget before we even get that check. We're already automatically budgeting and taking that $30 out and putting it into that long-term retirement plan. But this gives us an idea of what we could save, by investing, and looking at I would say a very conservative 5%. We could do better than that, but say 5% over 10 years. And you see the money that we could have after 5 years. By the way, we're not going to cover that in this, but we're going to talk more about the snowball effect of investing shortly. What we don't want to do, if we are looking to invest and we are investing for our long-term retirement, we don't want to discourage. We could easily get discouraged like the first 10 or 15 years we're investing. That compound interest with what we're putting in and the compound interest earning on interest might not do a lot the first 10 or 15 years. But after the first 10 or 15 years, it can really start to take off. So if we have 15 years or more to invest for our long-term needs, even within that time period, anything is better than nothing. Whatever we can add to. If I'm looking to invest over the next 10 years before I retire, I'm going to have something in addition to that Social Security check. But if I have 15 years or more, it can really start to take off. That compound interest on interest, as well as the principal that gets added to it. If we can make it a line item, and if we do get into a company retirement plan, we're already in a way making that a line item on our spending plan. We make that a line item, and we could do that. We could have it taken out of our own accounts, our own bank accounts. But can we make it a line item on our spending plan so we're automatically putting, even if it's just $20 or $30 a paycheck, say it's $50 a month total that I'm putting in, even if it's just $50 a month total, and I make that a line item on my spending plan, $50 a month by long-term and investments, as long as I'm taking care of those other two needs that we talked about earlier, paying down the debt and the savings. Some investment accounts can be open for as little as $0 to $5. And again, I hate to come back. I'm not trying to tell anybody to get into a company retirement plan, but company retirement plans are good examples of that. And there's others out there where we don't need to have X number of dollars in order to open that investment account. Again, there's accounts out there we need little to nothing to open up and to use. All right, this is the snowball effect. We're going to talk about, as you accumulate, you start out with a handful of snow and accumulate with interest, dividends, the compound interest, besides the principal that gets added. And over the years, we get the investing snowball. And just like a snowball rolling down the hill, the further it goes, the faster it gets and the faster it grows. And like I said earlier, we might not see much the first 10 or 15 years, but after about the first 10 or 15 years, it really starts to take off for those of us that have that much or longer to invest for our long term. And that's again with not having much. All right, we're going short on time. I'll try just real quick. The power of compound interest. Sam's friend decides to put $100 a month into a savings jar. He's not going to get any compound interest on that. He's going to do it over the next 40 years. He's going to end up with about $48,000. Sam, on the other hand, takes his $100 and he invests it. He's going to get a nice conservative, he's going to do some safe investing, get a nice conservative 5%. And over 40 years, you see how much, almost $150,000, basically 3 times what his friends with the power of compound interest. We're looking to work with a financial professional, and I see more and more that it could be a good thing to do. First of all, they do get paid differently. The type of there's different types of financial professionals. I'm not going to go over them. They'll do different things. There's different ways they get paid. Certainly look into that if you're looking to work with one. Brokercheck.finra.org is a site that you can go to. It's overseen by FINRA, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. And you can investigate financial professionals you're either already working with or ones that you're looking to work with. First of all, you can make sure that they're registered, that, as I like to say, licensed and legit, because that can be important. Some of these scams that we hear about from these financial professionals with the finger quotes that turn out to be scams, 9 times out of 10, that financial professional is either not registered or lost it. You know, is either not licensed or lost their license, and now they're trying to do something to make money, and they're doing something illegally. So we can also use broker check to find people close to us, you know, in our area, somebody that's basically in our general area that we can work with. Gives you information about their previous work history. See if there's any complaints out there. You know, how long they've been doing this. Are they new at this, or they've been doing it for a while? Those types of things that could be important when considering a financial professional. Okay, moving back, a spending plan isn't worth much if you don't go back and review it. Priorities and goals change. Make sure you monitor and adjust as needed. Things are going to come and go. I'm going to get that new smartphone. I'm not going to need another smartphone for the next 3 to 5 years. That comes off my spending plan, at least for now. Something else may get added on. Maybe my spouse or I, one of us gets a raise, and we have an extra $100 a month coming in. Now we have an extra 100. So things are going to come, things are going to go. These things are going to ebb and flow. The other thing is, we'll probably get to a point where we won't have to do it on a monthly basis. To start, we'll do it on a monthly basis. But once we get going, we may find that we could go to maybe every other month, maybe once. I'm at that point now where I'm doing it like once a quarter, just to make sure that I'm staying on track with what's coming, what's going, and making sure that I have more coming in than what's going out. All right, questions, and here is my contact information. And